Nipari, has lived an exemplary life and is a great example of humility. In her 20s and during the World War II years, she served as a youth missionary to Jamaica for 9 years. She returned to Grand Cayman and continued her work in the Wesleyan Holiness Church, formerly Pilgrim Holiness in West Bay. She is known throughout the Cayman Islands for playing the mandolin, reciting poetry, and singing. She has made a great contribution to the memory bank of the Cayman Islands National Archive, where her narrative has been transcribed. She and her husband, William Osborne Barnett Jr., had 6 children.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman's historical vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks very much for joining us on another terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today, as we invite you to share with us as we learn more about the Cayes Foundation. And at 1:30, Mr. Denniston Tibbetts will join us as we get a chance to talk about the seafarers. See what Thursdays bring? Well, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow, Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks again. And thanks for the opportunity here for us to learn and to share and to understand more about the entities and organizations, within our domain. So the Cayes Foundation, we have some wonderful people, including our general manager and always the excellent company of Dr. Alexandra Borden, who wears many, many hats. I commend you for your just incredible commitment to our community in so many respects, especially facilitating our monthly mental health matters show.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you to yourself and to Radio Cayman for always hosting a lot of these important discussions. And I do apologize for my voice. I was sick last week and my voice apparently never got the memo that we're better now.
We're better now, right? I like to say we're better now.
Yeah.
So me, myself, and I, all three of us?
Yeah, it's all of us. But I really appreciate the opportunity to come on to discuss Cayes and what we do in the community. Children and Youth Services is a foundation that is responsible for the Francis Bodden Children's Home as well as the Bonaventure Bonaventure Boys Home. And so we're really excited to let you guys know more about the foundation and what we do in the homes and how everything works. So today we're joined by some of the board members as well as Mr. Keith, our general manager, to give a bit of information on who we are, a bit of history and where we've came from, and some things that we're still working on, and some exciting new things we're developing as well.
And this is very important. The community looking at it as youth, and we keep hearing. I mean, just as we have celebrated our Child Month, and we talk about investing in them as investing in our future. This is the commitment. Our youth will grow and inherit, but they also are present and are contributing and impacted. So through you, perhaps maybe we'll ask the general manager for initial thoughts, Dr. Borden, or who should we get?
Miss Belinda is here, and so she had actually said that she would give some of the history of the Keys Foundation and elaborate a bit more on the DCFS role as well.
Okay. Miss Belinda Mendoza Williams. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Talk Today. How are you?
Oh, man, I am happy, healthy, blessed, favored. I am just almost borderline perfect, almost.
Wonderful. And good afternoon to our listening public. Always a pleasure to be here to share information on social development, social services in the Cayman Islands. And as Dr. Borden did indicate, DCFS has been a pivotal part in the evolution of the Keys Foundation. So to put things in a bit of a perspective, just to share that this year, the Department of Children and Family Services celebrates 60 years. Significant milestone. And of course, our founding mother, the late Miss Joyce Hilton, certainly laid the foundation for a lot of these pieces along with other previous directors over the years. And as we are aware, or for persons that don't know, Mrs. Joyce Hilton was involved in the creation of the juvenile law, and worked closely with some of our young people who were extremely vulnerable in our society. And with any government community partnership, in 1977, the government, in partnership with the Rotary Club of the Cayman Islands, actually handed over the Bonaventure Boys Home to the government. So I think the plaque should still be there on the wall at Bonaventure, where the Rotary Club of the Cayman Islands handed over the facility to the Cayman Islands government, then the Department of Children and Family Services. And that facility was specific to service our boys who were in need of care and protection, who were having some challenges in the community, no fault of their own. Some of it was due to neglect on the parents or adults responsible for caring for them, as well as them just getting into some delinquent behavior and needing that extra support and supervision. And then in 1983, the Francis Borden Girls' Home was handed over to the government in November by the same Rotary Club in the Cayman Islands. Again, there was a need for support for a different dynamic of children, particularly the girls, who needed similar services because there was some level of child endangerment, abuse. There were some challenges in terms of supervision at home or in the community. And we were able to partner with the Rotary Club to be able to build the facility. Both facilities were staffed and run by the Department of Children and Family Services over the years, and various programs were developed. There are lots of success stories, and of course ensuring that we keep confidentiality and privacy of those residents that pass through the homes. I can say that there are many of them in the community today that are productive, contributing members of society with family, with business. They've gone on to seek tertiary education. They are contributing to social society, the business society, even the government society. So again, those programs certainly supported a lot of our young people at that time. And just to say, sometimes no fault to parents because of their circumstances, but the Department of Children and Family Services then were able to create a space where we were able to support the children as well as their parents and family members. Again, just to give some more history as to the dynamics and the partnership and growth of how things evolved over the years. So before we had the Bonaventure Boys Home, particularly the Cayman Islands government did source services in another jurisdiction, Caribbean jurisdiction, where we sent some of our boys who were experiencing a little bit more challenges than normal to give support. But in 1990, the government discontinued that working relationship in that jurisdiction and decided to take a different approach in working with our children here in the Cayman Islands. We also looked at another jurisdiction that was certainly creating more dynamic programs to support that population of boys, and we engaged in other service providers in another jurisdiction in 1992. Followed on, other facilities were developed in the Cayman Islands, such as additional services through NCView. And again, I'm just putting things in perspective as to how our residential services evolved over the years. Critical milestone in 1993, Bonaventure Boys Home closed operations at their site, and the residents of that program were relocated to another facility, which would then be operated by the Department of Social Services at the time. What happened was the government of the day engaged in a contract for a youth rehabilitation program. So again, because we stopped sending some of our boys overseas to, again, create more programs to support them locally, the government of the day engaged with what we formerly know as CIMI, which was the Cayman Islands Marine Institute, and we developed a youth rehabilitation program with that entity. Actually, the overseas entity, the overarching entity, was called the American Marine Institute, and we were involved with them up until, as you can see, I got a lot of paper here of history, for our 60 years of the department. They went on, I want to say, if I'm correct, actually in 2002. So we were there for a few years working with the Associated Marine Institute, which was based in the United States. And in 2002, the Keys Foundation was actually established, and again, this was under the government of the day, the Honorable Minister, and I want to say Minister of Community Affairs would have been the portfolio at the time. Dr. Frank McFeel was the one leading the strategic change to have Children and Youth Services Foundation formed, and ever since 2002, DCFS has been working very closely with the Keys Foundation.
I certainly appreciate, Ms. Paulina, that overview, and maybe give us a perspective. As we pause and take our first break, and when we come back, we'll continue to learn more about Keys. Just to our listeners, this is information sharing. We won't be fielding any calls just yet, but if you have a comment, perhaps you can share it with us on our WhatsApp. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new Boneless Hot Sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new Boneless Hot Sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
You know you've dreamed of that Mercedes, the smooth leather, the style, luxury that feels so good. Ooh la la. With the prestigious 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLA 200 up for grabs in this year's Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser. This is your chance to make that dream come true. Tickets are $25 for one, 3 for $65, or 5 for $100. Benzorama fundraiser tickets are available with Lions Club members and various sales outlets. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser supports numerous community initiatives, includes sightseeing, Christmas delivery, restoration, and social services.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from June 19th to the 24th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.portercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That's 946-9020.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as we get a chance to learn more about the Keys Foundation, just a quick reminder to our listeners, we'll share the information and we'll take calls at another segment, but not just yet. Of course, you can WhatsApp if you have a particular query. But as we were going into the break, DCF representative and the board, Ms. Paulina Mendoza Williams, thank you for sharing. As you did, I'm sure many listeners would have, be either reminded or at the very least informed of things we didn't know, over almost close to 50 years now.
Certainly. So I would say, as I say, there are a couple other departments that came out of the Department of Social Services then, is that we want to say that we're the mother of a lot of our entities, i.e. Keys as well. And of course, 2023 Keys would be 2023 Keys is celebrating 21 years. Because in 2003 was when Keys also took over Francis Bawden Girls' Home and formed the Francis Bawden Children's Home. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Keith, the general manager, to see what's happening over the last, I shared what has happened over the last 20 years, but what's happening now.
Thank you very much. And that was extremely interesting for me. Obviously, I had done my due diligence before I arrived here. I've been here just over a year now, so I had some understanding of the history of the foundation, but that was really insightful. I suppose what really stuck out for me in the narrative that you just gave was about the powers that be and their constant striving to find the best possible solutions for our young people, between moving from one type of service to another, for looking for solutions in other jurisdictions, for engaging with the American Marine Institute. And I think in that respect, in that regard, things are no different today. I think when we know better, we must do better. I think residential childcare, as we would term it, has come a long way in the last number of years. There's a lot more research and development goes into practice, and that's everything from how we engage with the young people, how we build relationships, right through to the facilities that we provide them with, everything from the number of staff who work with them to the number of young people in homes, and as I say, the actual homes themselves. So what we have been tasked with by the board is to continue to modernise the services and to continue to find the best solutions for our young people in Cayman Islands. So at the moment, as you touched on, we have Francis Bodden Children's Home, often referred to as the girls' home, but we do actually have young men there as well. So there's two separate buildings on the what's the word I'm looking for? On the
space.
Yeah, in the space.
Within the facility. Huh?
In the facility. Yeah. So there's two separate buildings there. There's a boys' dormitory, which is the newest of the two, and I think it was I'm not sure exactly when it was built, but it was built to provide care and protection for young men, rather than Bonaventure, which at the time was for young men who were coming through the juvenile justice system. So Francis Bodden, as I say, we have capacity for 8 young men in that facility, and the girls' home, which is in the same facility, has capacity for 12 young ladies, most of whom have their own bedrooms. But yeah, so that's the kind of layout there at the moment. It's a pretty old school setup. We, as I say, we're charged with kind of modernising things, so the building themselves are in need of renovation and perhaps redesign. Residential childcare has advanced to the stage where we try to create setups and environments that are more akin to a home environment. It's nurturing, it's comfortable, it doesn't feel like an institution. I think that sends subliminal messages to the children that we care for them, that we love them, that we want to look after them and provide the best possible living conditions for them. Coupled with that, we take a trauma-informed approach to working with the young people. So we're not asking, I guess we're asking the question, what's happened to you, rather than what's wrong with you. And fundamental to what we do is, if you think about the old iceberg analogy, the behaviour is only the tip of the iceberg. It's what's beneath that. We need to really have that at the forefront of our minds when we're working with the young people. And we're looking for, and we try to engage and employ members of staff who have life experience, a level of resilience, some personality and authenticity, and those typically do the best work with the young people, and our staff team are really fantastic. Bonaventure Boys Home, so the campus, a different campus, that was what I was looking for, campus. So the different campus again has 2 facilities there. So Bonaventure remains a facility for young men coming through the juvenile justice system. Happily, the kind of referrals for that have dwindled over the last, certainly since I've been here and a little before that. I think that's a lot to do with the fantastic work that DCFS do in the community in terms of community interventions with these young people, so engaging them in their own communities rather than extracting them from the community and trying to modify behaviour, which was the kind of old school way of doing things. So I think kudos to DCFS and the programmes that they're running to do that. And also the court system and the juvenile justice system. I think there's probably a better understanding now of the issues that these young people face, and that the behaviour that we're seeing in the community from is a manifestation of different traumas they've experienced. So we're not necessarily looking to punish them, in inverted commas. We're looking to support and nurture, and that's how we form the kind of well-rounded members of society that you had touched on earlier, Ms. Palinda. So we also have another facility there as well, which called Phoenix House, which was created as a secure unit, so for young people who are putting themselves at considerable risk in the community, to the extent where the courts deem that their liberty has to be taken away from them for care and protection reasons rather than criminal justice reasons or youth justice reasons. So that was typically short stay, just to steady the ship, as it were, and then to re-engage them back into other programmes within the Keys Foundation. So that's the current setup. Within that, we have grand plans to develop all the buildings, the practice, absolutely everything, modernise the foundation from top to bottom. So yeah, we're going to need a lot of support from the community in that, a lot of support from I know we have that support from DCFS. The relationship I've found to be excellent since I've been here, very supportive, and we need that support from the ministry as well. So yeah, we've got a massive job, and it's going to take a number of years actually to get through everything that we need to get through, but we're ultimately trying to future-proof, I guess, the foundation, so that we don't have to send young people with increasingly complex behaviours to very expensive overseas placements.
So, and thanks very much, Mr. Boyle, for that. So for the public's perspective, who may have a level of history or who is just maybe coming to knowledge, for the Francis Borden, male and female can be accommodated in separate dormitories.
Yes.
For the Bonaventure, male only.
Yes.
And then you have the Phoenix house. For the Bonaventure, what's the capacity for the male?
The capacity is 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and again, it's open plan dormitory setting as well, which is something we're looking to change, because again, it's a very kind of old school traditional way of institutionalised way of looking after young people. So we're looking to develop that building. I think what we have to be able to do, because with the best will in the world, resources are always going to be pretty limited here. So we have to create services that are kind of malleable, in terms of we might have a spate of referrals whereby we get young people who are referred through the juvenile justice system, and we need to be able to accommodate them, but then that dries up and we don't want a facility sitting empty. So the building itself, the facility, would have to be adaptable. We might have a spate of referrals for young people with pretty predominant mental health issues, and again we need to make sure the buildings are safe and nurturing and all the things that these young people need. So part of our master plan, our grand plan, should we be able to pull it off, is to make sure that these buildings are adaptable to meet the needs. And by adaptable, I don't mean just a one size fits all that will do kind of approach. It needs to be adaptable to meet the complex needs of a variety of different young people.
Indeed. And for the boys, what would determine whether a young boy goes to Francis Borden or to the Bonaventure?
It would be the legislation to start with, first and foremost. So they would either come through the court system, and that would dictate that they would go through. I'm sure Miss Belinda can speak more intelligently on it than I can, but they would come through the court system because they've had a run-in with the law essentially, and they would be almost, I guess, sentenced to come to Bonaventure to go through the programme again, programme in inverted commas there, to re-engage them back into the community. Francis Borden, it would be more about care and protection, so young people who can't live at home for whatever reason, whether it be they're out with parental control but they haven't quite run into issues with the law yet, or perhaps parents have got their own challenges and are unable to look after the young people in the way that they would love to. So yeah, it's care and protection, I guess, is the way to think about Francis Borden.
So I appreciate it. So just for clarity, given that Francis Borden can take boys and girls and Bonaventure only boys, the difference between determining whether the boy goes to one or the other?
So, as Keith rightfully said, it's dictated under the Children's Act or the Youth Justice Act. And just to give a process synopsis of how things would work, if there are concerns for a child or children in relations to safeguarding, and we need to place them in residential care because we have exhausted, we meaning the Department of Children and Family Services, is unable to place them either with family, with foster parents, or just their need to be at a Keys Foundation facility. We go through the court system, we make an application requesting some form of order, whether it be an interim care order, or just an emergency placement order. There are times where we have some small stints of voluntary placements, but mostly through court orders. And specific to the Children's Act, it would be for care and protection matters, meaning safeguarding. As Keith rightfully said, if there's some level of neglect, for whatever reason, parents are unable to support child or children in that home space, or there is a significant issue of harm for the child or children that need to come into care. In reference to the Youth Justice Act, then we look at specifically Bonaventure and we give recommendations to the court. Actually, we give recommendations to the court on these orders as well. So the court makes the final decision. The Department of Children and Family Services under the Children Act determines the placement. So we can either place them at an alternative residential facility or with family or a family friend or with foster parents or in Keys facility, particularly for the care side, Francis Bodden Children's Home. When it comes to the youth justice matters, then the court would either do a remand or bail to Bonaventure Boys Home. And what happens there, it's again a rigorous program that is set up through Keys Foundation to support the needs, whether it's care and protection or it's under the youth justice law. To just state, in terms of being able to navigate the facilities and support the needs of children at this juncture, the multidisciplinary approach, and to give kudos to the various partners that we work with, Keys, DCFS, RCIPS, Education Services. At this juncture, we do not have any boys who are at Bonaventure. So we're able again to utilize the facility as need be to accommodate other types of services. And I highlight that we do not have any boys at Bonaventure. The cohort that left, when did they leave? Within the last one.
Oh, at Bonaventure?
Yeah.
I think November, then we had so pretty much November.
So I would say this is quite a milestone because over the years, I can't, and if I shared how long I've been in the social work field, that definitely this is certainly a significant milestone where we have a facility that's not housing our young boys on any sort of youth justice order. So kudos to all of the entities that I mentioned before, but also for Keys and the services that they have provided and the programs, as well as the social workers who play an integral part in creating this success for young people.
So given that, that is certainly commendable, but given that there are no young men over at the Bonaventure, what do we credit that to? And where are those boys if they're not there? Are they in prison? Are they...
As Keith said, the last young person that left, last young male, completed the program successfully, and is doing quite well. So the last cohort, they're productive young people at this point. They're still, some of them still do get support from Keys or from our department, just kind of monitoring, following up with them. The stats that we continue to collect from the department side, because we are in the youth court, so we are the ones that get the referrals and then do the reports for children under 18 if they come in contact with the law. And to say those stats have also decreased over the last, I want to say probably the last 5 years. Certainly we saw the decrease in 2020, but we can speculate a whole lot of things in 2020. But those numbers continue to go down. And I don't want to say an inaccurate number, but I would say that our last stat report, which would have been last year, we have less than 20 children who appeared in the youth court. So I think that speaks to the various programs that are in the community through our mental health providers, through Keys, through the Department of Children and Family Services, FRC, and also education services in programs that they're putting in place to support those children, as well as the police, because we would get a lot of referrals from the police in terms of any criminal matters that they, of course, that's how they would go through the courts. So I think with all of the players together, we are seeing where they're making some changes. One of the things that we have had discussions about, though, is the use of ICT. I think there may be some instances there, but being able to monitor any criminal activity, and it's really not the children, but the predators that may be trying to engage them, whether it's scamming. And I don't hear, or we haven't really had any referrals of our young people involved in scamming, as opposed to some other jurisdictions where those numbers are quite significant. So again, kudos to certainly a collaborative approach with all our stakeholder partners in certainly seeing the success. There's more to do, but I think we should celebrate the small wins that we have.
Indeed. So that reduction in the number is a testament to the success of the programs, and bringing the young people more sort of in line of societal expectations as opposed to some other thing. Okay.
I don't want to hog the conversation, but just to say that it's not only boys that appear in the youth court, because it's a mix of both boys and girls, but also to speak to the youth diversion program that DCFS also runs. We're actually looking at a new cohort starting soon. So
it's early intervention is the term that you would use. You're not waiting to last chance saloon, at which point liberty's been taken away from young people. You're looking to intervene, nip things in the bud, engage and support young people while they're at the stage where we can still keep them in the community.
Okay.
Well, and I was just going to add, it's not just the young people, it's their families as well, to make sure that they have the support and the resources to be able to support them with whatever is going on. A lot of the programs are geared towards the youth, but also towards the families. I know FRC does a lot of work with that, and so Counseling Services is also represented on our board as well, to make sure that, and we work closely with, Keys works closely with them, and I know all the mental health providers do as well.
What's the age of the young people who will be affected?
We can look after young people between the ages of 12 to 18. We have some flexibility around that, but typically around between the ages of 12 to 18.
And even though 18 is the age of majority, they still can be cared for within the facilities.
So, and again, it's a whole other conversation about resources that we probably need to work on in terms of, you would call it through care and aftercare, so young people leaving the care system. So if you think about, I don't know about your own experiences as a young man, you didn't just pack up your bags and leave at 18. You had still some support and engagement from your family. You possibly stayed at home for a lot longer than that. I know that I did. And you would still be able to dip back in and get that support. So I don't think that exists for young people in care necessarily. So when they age out at 18, it can become pretty difficult for them. So
sorry, Dr. Watton.
No. I was just going to add that they work closely with DCFS after the program, but the transition out is something that we're looking at, even though Keys supports up to 18. But DCFS has some programs in place as they transition out. I know it's something that we're looking at to be able to try to do more with as well, because that is such an important part. And to go from having school and Keys there right behind you, and DCFS and their whole care team, all of our kids also, when they come in, go through an assessment and get referred for any mental health or additional support services they may need, like speech language pathology, OT. So to kind of go from having this whole team behind you to not much is difficult, and so DCFS does kind of help to bridge that gap, but it's definitely more is needed.
So through our aftercare program, we do support a lot of the children who are aging out of Keys and other placements that we have.
I think.
And I know that a lot of the kids, because Mr. Keith talking about how we want them to know they're loved and cared for. A lot of the kids that I've known that have come through the system, while it's difficult and it's not a home, they do kind of become your family. And so a lot of them do, when they get in trouble afterwards or anything comes up where they just get stressed or come up to like a big decision and they get worried about things, a lot of them do touch base with their care workers who were their key person when they were there. So I know that a lot of the ones I've seen do circle back to come back in and get additional support. And so we're looking at more programs as well, just to keep in touch with persons who have come through the program.
What I will say is that's not an issue unique to Cayman. Through care and aftercare services across the board, certainly in my experience from back home, it's always a challenge for authorities to provide that for young people who are fiercely determined to be independent, but at the same time might not have all the skills necessary to be that. It's not a unique challenge to Cayman.
I mean, we all can appreciate, even as professionals, having someone else, what we call a mentor, whatever term, whatever a profession, that support is there. And even as a ambitious independent adult, having parental sibling support, guiding you. Well, you're building a house. This is what you should consider, irrespective of the age.
Yeah.
That can be beneficial. I can only imagine the extra challenges sometimes, as Dr. Warden shared.
Yeah, no, the team in the home definitely provide a different kind of support. So I've worked as a therapy provider with some of the kids, and we have our role, but the caregivers in the home definitely play a huge role, and a lot of times they are the ones that get the real story of everything. So while we have our role and we connect with the kids and we offer the higher level therapeutic interventions, the team in the home definitely are our eyes and ears when they're there. And as Mr. Keith said, we do use a trauma-informed approach, and upskilling the staff is something that's really important to the board as well, and something that that has been in place for a while, but something that we're looking at doing more of as well.
Okay.
To make sure that they're understanding the kids and what goes on, because there's a lot that happens. It's a very difficult transition. A lot of times they're coming from difficult situations coming in. So to make sure that the staff is able to support them and meet all the needs or as much as we can, of what's going on for them.
All right. We're ready for the break, Mr. Paul. When we come back, certainly welcome you to share more with us and to our listeners. We are learning a lot more about the Keys Foundation. When we come back, we'll continue that discussion. We won't be taking any calls just yet, so hopefully, like me, you'll be listening attentively and being, very well informed. Join us after the news.
How can you make a classic BLT sandwich even better? Well, by adding tuna. Wow. The land meets the sea in Subway's new sandwich, the Tuna BLT, available for a limited time. The Tuna BLT is exploding with flavor. Imagine crispy, juicy bacon strips on top of tuna, fresh lettuce, and slices of tomato, topped with your favorite sauce and choice of freshly baked bread. Enjoy the best of both worlds with the Tuna BLT from Subway. Subway, eat fresh.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Kim and Brack and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
As a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old girl this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Prevention is key. Is your heart at risk? During the month of June, Baptist Health International is offering special pricing for cardiac CT scan for calcium scoring for just 99 CI to patients at high risk for heart disease, the leading cause of deaths worldwide. You are a candidate if you are 40 to 65 years old and have any of the following risk factors: obesity, current or recent smoker, family history of heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or diabetes. To request an appointment or for more information, call 749-3304 or visit baptisthealth.ky.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brack and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. On Tuesday, June 20th, around 1 p.m., police responded to a report of an aggravated burglary that took place in the vicinity of Bolton's Avenue, West Bay. This incident is being investigated by the police. Anyone with information or who saw anything suspicious in the area around this time is encouraged to call the West Bay Police Station on 949-3999. In international news, the U.S. Coast Guard says it has discovered a debris field within the search area for the missing Titan submersible. The debris field was discovered by a remote-controlled underwater search vehicle near the wreck of the Titanic. Experts are now evaluating the information to determine whether it is linked to the submersible. A Coast Guard news conference is scheduled for Thursday afternoon. The Titan vessel went missing in a remote area of the North Atlantic on Sunday with a 4-day oxygen supply for its crew of 5. A man in India has allegedly managed to stay in a 5-star hotel in the capital Delhi for close to 2 years without paying the bill. Police received a complaint by managers at the Roseate House near Delhi Airport after they discovered the apparent scam 603 days into the man's stay. He allegedly owes the hotel over 5 million rupees, or 70,000 US. The complaint alleges the man colluded with staff who helped hide the mounting bills. No one has been arrested. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
When you have a sports or fitness-related injury, trust the expertise of the HSA's Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic to get you back in the game. Our internationally trained and certified physicians specialize in sports traumatology, sports medicine, pain management, and orthopedic surgery. For treatment of common injuries such as tendonitis, arthritis, tennis elbow, rotator cuff, or knee tears, schedule a consultation with the Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic at Smith Road Medical Center by calling 949-8600 or visit hsa.ky for more information.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Captain Keith Parker Tibbetts, MBE, JP, 1916 to 1996. Captain Keith Tibbetts of Kimmenbrack, shipwright, sea captain, entrepreneur, businessman, farmer, hotelier, building contractor, airline agent, government auditor, and land adjudicator, was elected as a vestryman before he turned 30. He served 25 years in the Assembly of Magistrates and Vestry and its successor, the Legislative Assembly, becoming a life member of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. In 1962, Captain Keith presented a petition to Sir Kenneth Blackburn, Governor of Jamaica, signed by over 75% of the registered voters in the Sister Islands, stating that if Grand Cayman decided to remain under the governance of an independent Jamaica, Kimmenbrack and Little Cayman would separate from Grand Cayman and become a crown colony under the authority of the United Kingdom. In addition to receiving many awards for heritage preservation, tourism, and community service, Captain Keith was posthumously honored in 1996 when a Russian destroyer was sunk off the northwestern end of Kimmenbrack as a dive attraction and renamed the MV Captain Keith Tibbetts.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks again for the opportunity to learn more about the Keys Foundation. We have the excellent company, Dr. Alexandra Borden, together, with Ms. Melissa Comparian, right? And of course the GM, Mr. Keith Boyle, and that indomitable spirit of Paulinda Mendoza Williams. I tell you, boy, who knows what is shared sometimes that inspires. Miss Melissa, thank you for being a part and like me listening attentively. I'd like to hear from your perspective and your involvement, perhaps what inspired you to join the board. Share as you wish.
Sure. Thank you so very much. Thank you for having us and giving us this time. I think it's so valuable to be able to share a little bit about Keys. I joined the board back at the end of 2019, just before all this pandemic craziness began. And I heard about the organization actually through a friend of a friend. And they said that they were looking for board members, and I quickly jumped on board and wanted to understand more about it. And when I kind of, did my own homework, my own research, so to speak, I really loved what it stood for. I loved what the organization was about, and I just have such a soft spot for the youth, just youth in general, wanting them to have the best and be the best and just have the resources and the opportunities that they, deserve to have. They're young. They are the next generation. We have to really be there for them. So I met with Mr. Arch, who's our wonderful chairman, and was appointed to the board shortly thereafter. So for me, it was really just about giving back. I'm from the private sector, so I'm a little bit different than some of the other board members, but something that I really, believe in and feel really passionate about is having that transition. Mr. Keith talked a little bit about the transition, the aftercare program, and I think a lot of private sectors, really, should get involved in terms of having these students or these clients or these children transition into work, into being members of society, as Ms. Paulinda said, and having them be part of our community and be, successful members. So I thought it was a great opportunity for me. My background is in human resources. We spent a lot of time, restructuring the team. We've finally hired a general manager who's amazingly competent and so great, and also his deputy as well, who isn't here with us today, but I'm sure she'll come back and speak at some point, who's also amazing. And, they really have their heart in the right place, and it's just so great to see them. So I'm really proud to be part of the organization. I've been a director on the board since 2019, and I just look forward to the future.
As you shared, we always talk about the children are our future, and many of us realize they are present now. They're affected and impacted by what's happening now, and that may not only inform their decisions, but their potential, right, Ms. Paulinda?
Absolutely.
As I'm listening to you, I'm wondering to what extent our community is still willing to label many of us, and if we were looking at our youth, mentoring, all of us can benefit from a mentor. Some of us may be more immediate and the need may be more apparent. But if you're a straight A student, having someone just guide you, if you're a student who may not quite get the grasp of a particular subject, not because of your approach, but maybe the teaching method, someone can still guide you. Is there a way to, as more and more we've seen in schools relative to this term, we've adopted inclusion, having everybody working together. Is there two things? One, the perception that facilities like this are geared towards those, whatever that means, as opposed to maybe having us all as young men and women benefiting from programs to help to develop the body, the mind, and the soul.
Again, our young people are a work in progress, and it is our responsibility to give them the support, the guidance, and the resources to become future leaders, future talk show hosts.
Yeah, I'm looking for more. I mean, I want to do something else soon, right?
And we talk about, and it's never going to get old, a village raising children. It is our responsibility as a community, as a government, as civil society, to ensure that we certainly put in place all of the resources, whether it be time, money, capital, to ensure that happens. And when we have children who need a little extra, we need to give a little extra. The success of our children who come into our care inclusive of Keys and the other facilities that we utilize, and our foster parents. Their success is not just the services we provide and the staff that work closely with them, but it requires the community, and it requires their parents, their families. Because when they leave us, it is not our role that we take away children from their parents just because we don't have anything else to do. There is a reason, but we also give that support and expect that parents, guardians, family members engage with us to ensure that when their children are ready to come back home, they too have gained from their experience. They know what resources to tap in, and that the success is partially due to their involvement. But I would not even say partially, a lot of it. 99.9% of it is due to their engagement with the programs that we offer, and keeping in contact with the staff, the social workers. As it relates to the community, having mentors, having persons who give of their time to spend with our children who are in care, it is very important, because oftentimes they don't have that level of adult role modeling in their home, and just need to have someone at that time. Again, we're not saying that parents are not equipped all the time. It may be just at the moment that we have brought them into care, parents are going through their own issues and they're not equipped. So having the extra support as having a mentor for our children is very, very important.
As I listen to, the vision, the plans, and sometimes understanding, the parameters, you shared the age. Do we look at sort of not just the statistical profile, but the demographic of our population relative to what's within the Keys Foundation homes and the like?
I think young people or people in general can have difficult
Mm-hmm.
young people or people in general can have difficult experiences regardless of demographic. So I don't think there's you would single out any particular demographic with regards to the population of the home.
Yeah.
Just tapping into what Miss Belinda had said there with regards to the community. So we have, as I say, grand ambitions to develop services, and the community are fantastically generous with their time. We get lots of church groups and other community groups like Lions and Rotary, and who'll come in and they'll do one-off pieces of work with our young people. We have to be a little bit careful of that, because we get a lot of offers, and we have to be mindful of the fact that this is the young people's living space. So we don't want, as much as it's well received in terms of the notion, we don't want to have numerous strangers coming in and out the homes all the time, because it impacts on the young person's privacy, etc., etc. I think what we'd look to develop in the future possibly is a longer term volunteering programme akin to like Big Brothers Big Sisters, something along those lines, whereby we have well-meaning, well-trained adults in the community who are in a position to form sustainable relationships with young people. So it's not just somebody who comes and sees them once a week or once and then they never see them again. It's about building, developing that relationship. I think the chances of success for young people in the community is massively increased if they have positive role models in the community.
Sustainable relationships is what we're looking for, and that's going to take us some time, I guess, to develop, whether that be a partnership with the likes of Big Brother Big Sister, or whether we develop something on our own. But that's what's important for you, rather than kind of one-off motivational speeches and so on and so forth. And these things are wonderful, and the experiences that they try to create for our young people are fantastic. But what's important is going to be those sustainable relationships with people in the community. At the moment, what I would say that we need from the community more than anything else is just understanding. It's just understanding. I think sometimes we get a bit of a bad press because of some of the things that we're having to face. I think we maintain our kind of calm and dignity, and we hold our tongue with regards to it. These are young people who are facing a number of challenges. It's not always easy, and we just need a little bit of understanding from the community that these are challenging times, but they won't last forever, and we are working through some challenges with the young people. I really appreciate your response to the demographic, because I think many times, just in a personal perspective, we adopt phrases like at risk. For me personally, we're all at risk. All our young people are at risk. Those two loving parents who are working,
It's there, but for the grace of God, right?
Yeah,
It
and
could
it's-
happen to anybody at any
yeah.
time. It could be tragedy. It could be unfortunate circumstance. COVID, I think,
Yeah.
brought around a lot of difficult issues, financial issues for people, and sometimes these things can snowball and spiral a little bit.
And I appreciate what you shared, because it inspired me to ask about that, using the approach with schools, with inclusion, having all the students together so that we see each other as what we are, people.
Exactly.
We're more alike than we are different. Put me in a football field, I love the game, but I'm not going to be able to play next to the great Bar Martinez, but I certainly will enjoy the game. But that's it.
To echo what Keith was saying in terms of mentorship, definitely any sort of program that is to be established or will be established, it will be highly screened. So again, to protect the residents and persons who are working with them, it will be very important to certainly have a thorough screening process. But also to add on in regards to the publicity of keys and some of the things that do come out in the press, again, we have to protect the children that we care for. So we're not going to respond or add any fuel to the fire in any negative form of press statements that may come out. But also to say we have to acknowledge that negativity on the part of the organization, and now I'm not talking about any misconduct by staff, which again our HR expert is here as well, we address, but when trying to name or share what is confidential information relating to a minor, we are creating another form of trauma by putting this information out in the public. And with the creation of social media, thank God I didn't have to deal with that back in the day. When it's Karita. But just to say again, these things are going to follow the children throughout their lives, because when you Google, you're going to Google Paulinda Mendoza Williams at 16, only God knows. And
I know with our Westway fellow, huh? Playing, running seas. We're not talking about shores.
So we have to be very mindful of what we share, particularly in the space of social media. In protecting our children. But also we hear the conversations about our children being bad. Our children are not bad. They are going through difficult spaces that if some of their stories were shared, some of us as adults would not know how to even start to navigate that landscape and addressing what they have been through in their little space of life on earth. So, the terms that we use, how we criticize our children, particularly, again, for the girls that run, we hear in spaces, oh, they just bad, oh, they gone to this boyfriend, and, certain derogatory terms. Our children hear this, they read this, and you do not know why they are doing what they do. It is because they have experienced some form of life impact and trauma, and being in a space that's creating structure, stability, care and love, they are unfamiliar with it. And of course, Dr. Bodden, she is more the expert on mental health and how we navigate, but more so how our children navigate having to deal with that.
Yeah. And thanks, Ms. Blunda. That's what I was going to say. So I joined the board not long after Miss Melissa, and I joined early in 2020, and I was honored to be able to be a part of Keys because through growing up here, I know how important the girls' home and Bonaventure were to a lot of the kids on island. But as a therapist, returning and working here, and knowing the difficulties that many of the children on island face, and knowing that for many of them, Keys and getting into the home was a godsend for them to be able to have a place that's safe, that's theirs, that does provide structure and support. Very different from what many of them were living in at the time. was huge. So to be able to help them and be able to be a part of Keys to try to make even more of a difference was an honor to me. I think from the mental health perspective, you heard Mr. Keith and Miss Belinda talking about the importance of stability. So you would have heard me talk on Mental Health Matters many, many times about the importance of attachment. This is going back to relationships that children form when they're children. And this is kind of the key to mental health, self-esteem, future relationships. So when that doesn't happen at home, and in fact, if the kids are at risk of either not having their needs met or being harmed in some way, that creates a lot of other difficulties as well, which makes the home life before Keys very difficult. The transition to Keys and transition to living somewhere else alone in itself from a psychological point is traumatic, right? And having to adjust now to not only being somewhere different, but having a structure, a routine, and other people around that are also, while supportive, are essentially authority figures too. It's a huge transition. Many of them are able to stay in school in the community, which is good, with the support from the team and the clinical team that will wrap around them when they get in. But it's important to not only see these behaviors. Mr. Keith referenced the tip of the iceberg, right? A lot of times youth that end up in these situations get judged. And that's why I keep saying the families, because it's important when you look at these kids, not just to look at the kid and the behavior, whether it's running, and not just Keys, but anyone in this age, running drug use, promiscuity, all of these things tend to come from difficulties before. So it's important to look at the bigger picture. So you've heard me talk about on Mental Health Matters, not only with youth, but with persons in domestic violence relationships, persons coming out of substance use rehab. It's important to look at the bigger picture of what's going on. The kids having to understand why the parents who are supposed to be the ones that are there to look after them and keep them safe aren't able to do that, or might be the ones causing harm, that they're then transitioned to this other place that haven't had healthy coping skills modeled at home, often have had harmful coping mechanisms, arguing, violence, substance abuse, neglect or leaving, and withdrawal, all modeled at home. So they have all these feelings that they don't understand. As kids, we naturally want to be loved. I can tell you, a lot of the kids I've worked with, no matter what has happened, that's still mommy and that's still daddy. On the outside, it can be hard to understand, but that bond with the parent is huge, which is why it's so important to keep the families involved as much as they can, and keeping the kids on island, getting the parents involved is so important. It sounds harsh sometimes going through the courts. Sometimes that's what it takes to make sure the parents stay involved for the kid and for the family and for the community, right? Because whatever, the kid can have brilliant people around, but if the parents aren't on board, it's really difficult. I know from some of the kids I've worked with at Keys and even in the States, if the parents aren't on board, it's really difficult. So the parents that do get on board at some point, that's huge for the kids. So it's important to know that this is them struggling to figure out who they are, what the boundaries are, you know, what is love, who loves me, how do I find love, how can I have love and respect in a relationship, what does respect look like, what is a healthy relationship? That's a hard question, even for adults that come from healthy families, quote unquote healthy. All of us have our own difficulties, you know, so I think it's really important not just to look at the behaviors, but to look at the bigger picture. We have a lot of kids struggling to figure out what's going on, you know, who they are, what life holds for them, where do they want to go. You know, I know in high school, it's always get out of high school, you know, finish. But for many, you know, it's then the goalpost keeps moving and look up. But many of the kids that come from difficult circumstances, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, college isn't really on the radar, you know. And so it's important to kind of keep in mind where these kids are at when this is going on. The good thing is if you do get the chance to see the kids long term, which is where kind of by the time I was asked to join, I had seen some of the kids go through the system, the settling in, understanding the system, how it works, you know, and they're the ones that I know still call the care workers that they worked with. They're the ones I know still drop by the home to see how things are going. It's important to look at the long term. You know, not just this initial settling in period that they have. And unfortunately, our kids, when it comes to social media, then are having to go through all these things that we all went through. All of us at some point have challenged our parents, you know, done things that they told us not to do, done things that may have bent or broken some rules. But they're having to do it in the spotlight, which is not fair. So that's where we do ask that, you know, the public respects who they, you know, what they're going through. And not just our kids, but all kids, but our kids in particular, too, I'm here to talk about today. So not just to look at the behavior, but look at the bigger picture. And the more community ties we have, the better. The more support we could get financially and emotionally for the agency, so that we can do all these great things that Mr. Keith has planned. I say he's brought in a wealth of experience, and since here I get so many updates, and he's just got such great plans and such big ideas, and has done so much already. But we need that, as well as the ties for the kids too. You know, you've heard me, I came on and pleaded when I came on with hope. You know, the community support is really where it's at. Keys can't carry these kids forever, nor can DCFS. So those ties to the community will be the bridge to get out and get them to be the success stories Ms. Belinda was talking about.
And as Ms. Belinda shared, I mean, I say it often, and unfortunately, I believe it has become a cliche when we say it takes a village, because it is important, but it just becomes now a saying that we no longer have that level of impact on our lives. And as Keith shares, you know, but by the grace of God, we've all had, you know, how you say it, you know, little misgivings or missteps.
Yeah.
So maybe in saying that, what I'm also hearing is that we as the adults in the community look within, and as much as we want to point fingers and label and malign, perhaps we need to be held more accountable, not just as parent and coach, not just as teacher and pastor, but Ms. Belinda, the whole adult community. These are our children. You know, that young child that we speak to in a harsh way may come back one day and speak to us in a tone that we don't like. Where did they learn that from?
If we live long enough to get to a good old age, someone is going to have to take care of us.
There you go. I mean, they say, you know, Mom always says good follows good. So, you know, respect begets respect. We know it. Do we practice it? I really appreciate this opportunity. Thanks, Dr. Borden, for reaching out. I'm hoping that we'll have more discussions for us to get a perspective, maybe understand the importance of what we're trying to achieve and how it's impacted. I trust that my questions have not been improper. My thought out loud of inclusion, you know, because football is probably, my children would say, the best analogy. On that team, the best players only succeed because the entire team is strong. And that's with everything. Maybe at some point we could talk more about, you know, the vision, the staffing, the complement, the things we as a community can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly appreciate it. With a few minutes remaining, can we go back around the table and invite each of you, if you have any sort of closing thoughts? Want to share first with Dr. Borden? All right.
Our website is currently under construction. We're hoping to be able to share more information shortly. But we appreciate everyone listening in, tuning into the show to learn more about Keys Foundation. It plays such a vital role in the community that I know I appreciated it before I joined, and now I can really understand, you know, the amount of work it takes, you know, to do what we do and to do it well. So I really encourage people that are interested to reach out, learn more about Keys. I think Mr. Keith has some phone numbers that we can be reached at, but we're always happy to talk and discuss ideas.
Indeed.
And thank you for having us.
You're most welcome, Mom.
Yeah, so if anybody's been, I guess, inspired by what they've heard today, or that they feel moved to become involved, we have some wonderful community partners already who've helped us do things like decorating one of our facilities to make it. They've donated furniture, come and did the work. So Michelle at Design Studios, Rotary, all the Rotary clubs, 345 AV, a number of community partners have really helped us out and continue to be engaged and continue to be motivated and moved to be involved. So if anybody feels that they want to be involved with us at all, you can get in contact with us at 946-2446, and that will get you through to our main office, or you could get us at Francis Bodden Children's Home, which is 947-3202. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Melissa.
I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, this has been an amazing opportunity, and, you know, we really just want to educate everyone about what Keys is about and who we are and just all the great work that we're doing. So just thank you so much for your time, and appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
It's an honor.
Also, thanks again to Talk Today, Mr. Host, and of course our listening public. Child Month theme for 2023 was investing in our children means investing in our future. And that's not just for 2023, but this is something that is to be sustainable throughout. With that being said, if we're going to invest in our children, for their future, it requires the village to be a part of this.
Thank you all again for coming on board. Thanks, Dr. Borden, for facilitating. And hopefully as a community we start to appreciate that we are, this time and now. And if not now, when? If not me, who? So this on board. Thanks again. It was truly a pleasure. Invite you to have not just a wonderful day, but enjoy the rest of the week and each hour be more productive than the one prior. All right, to our listeners, join us after this break. The man who some would say the Very Honourable Dennis Tibbetts, well, he'll be our guest. We'll talk about another phenomenal entity. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
They say variety is the spice of life. And that's why at Subway, we are introducing the new boneless hot sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh. Here's a CUC storm tip. During or after a storm, keep away from fallen or low-hanging power lines. Always assume that the power lines are energized. With CUC, you've got the power.
What exactly are the steps in the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey? Step 1 is a questionnaire where you'll be asked about your health behaviors and lifestyle choices. Step 2 involves home measurements like height, weight, and blood pressure. Lastly, Step 3 is a finger prick blood sample for cholesterol and glucose. STEPS 2023 starts on June 3rd. Learn more by logging on to www.gov.ky/steps.
The 22nd Annual Talent Exposition of the Arts, Humility, is here. Presented by the New Self-Help Foundation, Sunday, June 25th at the Hartwell Theatre. Awesome performances by Rico Rolando.
Yeah, she twerking on some band and I'm about to make a dance, yeah.
Dream Chasers, Radiance Dance Studio, UCCI Dancers, Centerpoint Dance Studio, Sparks School of Performing Arts, Dan Ebanks, and more. Hosted by Anika Connolly and Lloyd Barker. Part of the proceeds from the talent exposition go to support the training program of the arts. Tickets available from Number One Shoe Shop and Winner's Circle Sports. Prepaid $15 or $20 at the gate. The 2023 Talent Exposition of the Arts, Humility, Sunday, June 25th at the Hartwell Theatre. Gates open at 5 p.m. Show starts at 6 p.m. Get your tickets today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And thank you so much for joining us. And it was always a pleasure to be able to learn more about the different entities and agencies that are impact and affect the lives of those in the community, in particular our youth, and perhaps even ways that we can draw on board. So again, thanks to Dr. Alexandra Warden, always able to facilitate and involved in volunteering as we talked about the Keys Foundation. Now we turn attention to the Cayman Islands Seafarers Association and the excellent company of Mr. Dennis Tibbetts. Always inspired and encouraged by not just the enthusiasm and the energy, but the industriousness of our seafarers, their contributions, not just then, but continuing. So to you and as you said, all the young fellas at the association, thank you all very much for the example, but also, for your continued efforts. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sterling. Sorry about the mix-up earlier, but
that's okay.
When you get a certain age, you have to.
I have some thoughts on that, but let me just hold it for now.
Okay.
Boy.
This evening or this afternoon, I'm just here for information only.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you want to take if you want to take somebody calling in.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on board and sharing with us more and more about the Seafarers Association, and maybe as much as we think we know about it, as much as we as often as we hear, perhaps it's good for us as a public to not appreciate only.
Well, that's why I'm here as a trying to educate the public about what the seafarers are. If you, first of all, if they would read the laws, or if the seafarers would come to meetings, they would understand. We don't send out any emails and all that kind of thing to let people know. We have a general meeting every third Tuesday, of the month. By the way, I didn't see you at the last one. You said you might come.
Yeah, you sent me a personal reminder, and I thank you for that. I would love to tell you that I was engaged in something personal and productive that was so pleasurable that I, could give you an excuse as to why I enjoyed it.
Say no more.
But otherwise,
Well, first of all, let me just talk to the people who are not enrolled in the seafarers. If they're not a member of the seafarers, they should not expect seafarers to assist them.
Okay.
That's the law.
You need to be a member.
You need to be a member. So, if you're a member, then seafarers definitely will assist with the burial. But even if some of the seafarers who are not members are getting government benefits, they are not enrolled and paying yearly dues, so they are not covered.
Okay. So what's the criteria? What's the eligibility to become a member?
Well, they changed all of that in the last election when the new government came in. Nowadays, it doesn't matter how much money or how much your income is prior to them coming in. Now it's open game for everybody. So you have to have been going to sea for 3 years. For a spouse, if she becomes a widow and the seafarer dies, then he would have had to have been a member for 3 years prior to him departing this life, and then he would qualify for assistance. But we have had even my brother, his wife was only 50 years old, so the law states you have to be 60 years old to get any benefits. So if she doesn't get married again between that time, now when she gets to be 60, then she will be granted that. And also you see, a lot of people come and say, oh, I want to pay my insurance. And I'm tired of telling people it's not an insurance. You pay a yearly fee, and then because of that, government gives you cynical insurance and the ex gratia. Now we have a lot of people out there who are not members and they're still getting the benefits from government, but they're not entitled for us to assist them with the burial. So that's technically what I'm trying, because I've had a lot recently of people call. Then my father went to sea, and he died a long time ago. But my mom just died, and she's 90 years old, and I should help her. It doesn't work like that, And for our members, by the way, we have a black star or a black, whatever you call it. Mr. Jones Wells passed away Tuesday night. He made his 4 score plus, but you never want to see anyone go. But we take our hats off to him because he was a good man, and he did wonders for the seafarers and for West Bay. I also want to talk about what has happened. And you see, if people who are members attend the meetings, then they will know what's happening. People call in the morning, well, how come I not get my money yet? Excuse me? Do you normally get money? No, but I hear that, it's a hearsay thing. Members need to come to the meeting to find out what's what. And if they're inquiring something, then inquire, but don't come telling us what they expect. If you look here, It says 12:30 to 1:30. Anyway, that's beside the point again. Now, every year on the 25th of June is International Seafarers Day.
Mm-hmm.
This year it falls on Sunday coming.
Sunday.
But we're utilizing Saturday instead of Sunday. And we're having a family fair day. We're going to have hamburgers, hot dogs, sandwiches, chili, drinks, water. We have a TV room. We're going to have dominoes, cards, board games. And we're going to have tickets, no cost. And we have miscellaneous prizes, of course, at the end of it. Then on July the 9th, Sea Sunday, this is the third year. Last year we went to the Brack.
Yeah.
The year before that we were at Lobster Pot. But this year we're going to have it at the Seafarers Hall on Sunday the 9th. Starts at about 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But further details will be available. Then Jerris Miller and Miss Susie Soto, they just edited a book called Caymanian Schooners and Turtlers. They have like 106 different stories that were told to them by turtlers, and it's a fantastic book. And they're having the launch of that on the 15th of July at the Turtle Center, formerly Turtle Farm.
Mm-hmm.
And all seafarers are invited to that. The price of the book is $45, but seafarers are going to get a little cut, so we're going to get them for $35. And last but not least, the 18th of July will be our next meeting, which is a regular meeting. We have a social every quarter. So Tuesday night gone was the one for June. Mr. McKeever, well, no, let me rephrase that. Dr. the Honorable McKeever Bush, MBE, all them kind of things. He will be the guest speaker. And incidentally, he's the patron of the Seafarers Association. So he will be quite welcome. I think what he's going to talk about is the 10% that seafarers are now.
Yeah, the contribution for their medical.
Yeah, if they go overseas.
Yeah,
we're trying to get that lifted, and he's going to talk about that, amongst other things. As a matter of fact, the council is meeting with other MPs, Mr. Andre Ebanks, Miss Sabrina Turner, and the Culture Minister, Bernie Bush. We're going to meet with them on the 27th of July at 4 p.m., and they'll bring us more up to date in addition to what Mr. McKeever is going to talk about. So that is about what I came to do, but I'm here to impart any other thing if someone wants to call in.
All right. And as we go into the break, just maybe a quick sort of insight for my edification, if nothing else. This Saturday,
it's the Family Fair Day.
At the Seafarers Hall?
At the Seafarers Hall. Starts from 11 o'clock until about 5. We're having bunks and castles.
And it's open to the public if they wish to come along and share? Or is it the seafarers and their families?
Seafarers and their families preferably, but I mean, if you're passing there and your grandchild is with you, or if you're young enough and you have children, I'm sure they can jump in the bunks and castle.
And inside the hall, it's almost a museum itself.
Exactly, and then you can play dominoes and eat some chili.
There you go. All right, well, Mr. Denison has offered up his company. We can talk more about the seafarers. We can delve into his vast expertise and experience. Invite our callers to share. Who knows what we'll learn. During the break, I'll ask him, for his solutions to the world's woes. But let's see if he'll, have time to share that with us. 949-80-37, 949-69-90. toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255, and of course the WhatsApp. You can do it as you do normally with your own private WhatsApp calls, 925-3261. If you call us, we'll answer it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old girl this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Hey, listen, it's carnival season, you know, and Digicel wants you to celebrate without worries. Get double the data only for carnival weekend when you purchase a 7-day Prime Ultra plan.
Whether you're streaming the hottest tunes or capturing unforgettable moments, make sure you have enough data to keep the party going all weekend long.
Yeah, no lie, don't miss out on the fantastic offer. Get your 7-day Prime Ultra plan today and experience carnival like never before. Digicel, bigger together.
Homeowners, protecting your family and property is crucial during the season, and you should always assess insurance needs long before a storm makes landfall. Most insurers won't issue new policies or increases when a storm is imminent. Cayman Insurance Center's team of professionals can help owners like you find the most comprehensive coverage and competitive rates. Call the insurance professionals at Cayman Insurance Center 949-4657 or email info@cic.com.ky. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call Cayman Insurance Center's insurance professionals today at 949-4657.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Boddentown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Always ensure that food preparation utensils are washed with a strong detergent and rinsed in hot water in the event that they have made contact with flood water. Boil silverware for 10 minutes and immerse glass, porcelain, china, and plastic items in a solution of hot water and 10% chlorine bleach before use.
For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DAH website at www.gov.ky/DAH.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And Thursdays, for the longest time, we've sort of informally build them as thoughtful Thursdays to evoke a sense and sensibility, provide an opportunity for not just a level of interaction and intellectual discourse, but a sense of almost expectation and obligation on our part to engage in meaningful dialogue. Mr. Denson Tibbetts, as you shared, you're not only here as the President of Seafarers and giving an insight, but you're willing to allow us to tap into, your life experience. Many who know you will probably have to take a step back and go, really, is that his age? With the greatest respect, we should all be so fortunate, to see our 3 scores and 10 and maybe live, as my aunts and uncles in their hundreds. As a young fellow like yourself, it's good to see
young fella.
the active and the age.
I told you earlier that I'm a 1948 model, so I'm not ashamed of that.
Not
I'm
at all.
very grateful.
Thank God, And with that, please, use the opportunity to provide it. Let us benefit from your perspective. Because sometimes if we don't listen, we may never learn. But if we don't hear the counsel, how can we heed the advice? So,
Well, basically, when I first joined the Seafarers Association, everybody said, "Well, you never went to sea, you know." I say, "Oh, yes, I did." But I lived in Jamaica at the time, and I shipped out from Jamaica because my father was a sea captain with National Bulk, so I went on the ship with him.
You moved from the back, as you told us before, with your family to Jamaica?
Exactly. Yeah. So there was a guy who was a seafarer. He was a peon captain, I call him, because he couldn't find his way to Little Cayman. But anyway, for some reason, I did this man nothing. For some reason, he kept insisting that I didn't go to sea. And everybody that he could tell that to, he did. Finally, one of my seafarers said, "You know what? I'm going to prove him wrong." So he went to Cayman Brac and spoke to Bussy, who was the chief engineer. He was on the ship with me. And Bussy said, "Oh, yeah, me and him," Bussy was about a year older than me, but, you know, we had a good time together and did hard work and all that. And that's how, unfortunately, the guy passed away before all this was done, but that's how I convinced people that I went to sea. I mean, I would not have tried to become anything other than what I am without going to sea, you know. But Caymanian people, I find, are very, I don't know how to. Right now we have a situation with people in West Bay. They don't want to come to meetings because a certain individual has rumored that me and the office manager is having an affair and we're stealing money and all that. I mean, it's painful, but I forgive the man because what you don't know don't hurt you, to say. And if he's so ignorant to tell people that, I mean, we have so many things to back us up. I mean, how first of all, my parents didn't raise me as a thief in hell, and anybody who tell you that I was stole from them, they'll be telling a lie. But this guy is spreading that rumor, and certain individuals in the West Bay are believing it, and they don't come to meetings. No, that's wrong. If you want to know the facts, ask me or ask the office manager, you know, or anybody on the council.
If I might just use that as a platform to look generally, you know, unexpected you share that, but thank you for it, because sometimes the candidness.
Well, the reason I thought that I wasn't going to share it, but I cannot fathom the idea of people not wanting to come to meetings because of something like that.
Right. So with that, with a small community, sometimes we harbor certain perceptions, ill-conceived, non-founded, or even the things that may actually be factual. But as a result, we preclude ourselves from getting engaged, from actively participating, from not just benefiting from something, but contributing from our time, our talent, and our treasure. With that in mind, and in the global perspective of the Cayman Islands, what can we do from your travels, your knowledge, your life experiences, to bring our people to a space where we unite our efforts and our energies, we pool our resources, not just to improve the quality of life now, the safety, the security, the stability, and all those things, but to position Cayman of tomorrow that's not just successful financially and economically, not just socially and politically, but to become this beacon of hope and prosperity, and perhaps as an example to the region and other places.
Well, I think well, you hit the nail on the head, because what has been happening in Cayman, not only Cayman, I mean, on the first ship I was on, I was the union delegate for the crew, and
this was part of the Global Maritime Union, or
Global Seaman's Union. Yeah. And it was only $2 per month, but I collected it and gave it to the captain to give to the union. But why I brought that up is because most of the people on that ship were either from there were people from Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and we had a few Vincentians and one Trinidadian. That was the first ship I was on. But the point I'm trying to make is that two Caymanian, one Cayman Brac and a Caymanian got in a fight. So the captain called court, and I had to go because I was
in Europe.
Yeah. And he wanted them to tell him who could tell him, because both of them stammered, so he couldn't understand what they were saying.
So you asked the translator.
but you know, nobody else came to the assistant. What I'm trying to say is that Caymanians have all kind of opinions about things, but they never take, for instance, at the meetings, every time that the secretary reads the minutes and they're confirmed, I say, anybody has anything to say? And for 4 years, nobody says nothing. But yet still, when I go outside after the meeting, boy, I tell you, I want to say something. Well, why didn't you say it? You know?
Why is that?
I don't know.
Because that's not the example I know.
Well, that's not the example with me either. I think on one of your shows some time ago, I voiced the opinion that the culture from other nationalities are being brought here and exercised here. But I nip it in the bud whenever it affects me, you know?
But it's interesting you say that, and I don't necessarily subscribe to coincidences. And as you just many times in the past with the former governor, you were part of the kitchen cabinet.
Exactly.
And we benefit if we're willing to look to examples, if we're willing to allow ourselves the opportunity to listen to others, right? But in the Cayman context, whether it's the influence of media, social media as we term it, the television shows that we watch, the music, or the people from here, should we not have the good sense to discern for ourselves?
But we should. We're educated people.
Yeah.
You know,
But
you don't have to go to university to be educated. You know?
Yeah. But is that politeness and kindness and the hospitable nature that somehow we confuse?
Well, it's definitely confused because well, I grew up in a different environment, although I've been here for a long time. But when I came here, I was an adult. I was a married man with a child. And so it's a little different for me in the sense that I was exposed for 17, 18 years to a different culture. But I certainly didn't try to exercise the culture that I knew in Cayman Brac. In Jamaica, the schools that I went to, you know, the primary school, the high school, and the college.
Do you think that when you return that influence, those are your formative years, you share with us, you know, you left as a young fellow, you came back as a married adult with child. That experience, that influence, that sort of upbringing and environment, did that help to inform maybe your level of assertiveness,
well,
your level of...
what it did for me was it helped me to overcome prejudices. Because when I went to primary school first in Jamaica, of course I was talking like a Cayman Braca for the first couple of months or whatever, until me talk like them now, you know. Plus I got married to a Jamaican lady, God rest her soul. But the point is, when I went to the primary school, I was the only person my color there. And they used to call me Red Hog. But I realized very early that I couldn't fight that. So I became like one of them, even with a different color.
So is that a challenge now in Cayman that if you can't beat them, join a mentality instead of asserting and ensuring that...
Well, it works, trust me, because it worked with me. And by the time I went to high school then, I was a boss man, they call me. You know, I mean, it's just, I don't know. And they say you live and you learn, so... But I remember years ago, I was a building contractor for 47 years before I got old. And I remember, and parents caused this because this guy came to me and he said, "Boss man, you got in a job?" He was a plumber. I said, "Well, I don't need a plumber, but I need a helper, and I'll pay you $10 an hour." "Oh, no, my mama said, if you can't pay me $15 an hour, I'm not working for you." Now, I mean, is that something to tell your child? I don't think so.
Maybe you just... All right, we'll come off the break, sir. maybe we can ask more about some of the things that we could be doing to help to foster not just integration and acclimation, not just assimilation, but a sense of ensuring that the Cayman ethos is one that is, more greatly valued. All right, Mr. Denniston will remain with us. We're gonna see what it would be like to be at the kitchen cabinet. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Brought to you by Tropical Plaza on Smith Road.
The next installment of Cayman Government Office in the UK's One Planet Insights docu-series featuring the blue iguana will premiere during Climate Action Week in London. The event is taking place on June 29th at 9 a.m. Make sure to follow the Cayman Islands Government Office's UK's Facebook page for a link for more information. 3 Palestinian militants have been killed in a rare Israeli drone strike in the occupied West Bank amid escalating violence in the territory. The military in Israel said it targeted a, quote, terrorist cell inside a suspicious vehicle that carried out a shooting attack near Jamallah on Wednesday night. It was the first such strike in the West Bank since 2006. Palestinian first responders said they found 3 bodies in a burned-out car, but soldiers prevented their removal. And Beijing has recorded its hottest June day in more than 60 years, with the mercury touching 105 degrees Fahrenheit. The city is experiencing a prolonged heat wave with extreme temperatures to persist until the end of June. Today, officials said it was the hottest June day since record-keeping began in 1961. Several monthly heat records have been broken around China this year, prompting fears of an energy crunch. Those are your headlines. I'm Kersley Fuller.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Brought to you by Tropical Plaza on Smith Road.
You know you've dreamed of that Mercedes, the smooth leather, the style, luxury that feels so good. Ooh la la. With the prestigious 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLA 200 up for grabs in this year's Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser. This is your chance to make that dream come true. Tickets are $25 for 1, 3 for $65, or 5 for $100. Benzorama fundraiser tickets are available with Lions Club members and various sales outlets. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser supports numerous community initiatives, includes sightseeing, Christmas delivery, restoration, and social services.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks so much to Mr. Denniston Tibbetts, both the individual and as president of the Cayman Seafarers Association. Through you, sir, perhaps we can extend our public gratitude to the seafarers. I think many times, like many things, many of us will say much without fully being informed, and even when we may try to champion something, we don't even quite sure that we misspeak. The respect that is due and deserved to the seafarers sometimes isn't, as public acknowledged.
Well, some months ago, Celebrate Cayman, which is headed by Alfonso, right? Incidentally, Alfonso, in addition to being a personal friend of mine, he's also a member of the association because his father went to sea.
Mm-hmm.
So he's an adult child of a seafarer, and we accommodate those. But there's no benefits other than being a member of the seafarers. But and we did or rather Celebrate Cayman did a thing in each district where all the seafarers were given badges and whatnot. And he said something at the Georgetown when he had the meeting in Georgetown that he was giving out all these certificates. He said, if you see a seafarer on the road, tell him thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And that really touched me because I never thought about it like that, you know.
Yeah.
And the foreigners who come here, unfortunately, don't know the history. And they see you on the road trying to sell something, and they say, "Get off the road," you know. I mean, it's so unbecoming, you know.
But
and they never stop to learn and understand that what they find here, it wasn't so all the time, you know.
Let me, if you would allow, through you, let me ask more about that, because from two perspectives, many may see, hear, and perhaps not quite appreciate. Yeah, the seafarers receive a level of benefit from the society, through government, but rarely do we understand the contributions, not just what they made, but what they continue to make now. I think of scholarships for continued education.
Yeah,
I think of purchase of medical equipment, and
we do all of that.
Yeah, and these are significant.
And we have a creed that we repeat at each meeting, and the last part of it says that to assist young people, maritime minded, in their pursuit of knowledge, and we do that, you know. As a matter of fact, in association with the MACI,
the Marine Maritime Authority,
right?
Yeah.
We have sponsored somebody to go away to the university and learn more about catboats and trawlers and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like you said, we have bought equipment for the. As a matter of fact, I'm very proud of this because when Jasmine moved,
you have a call, but yeah.
Oh, when Jasmine moved down there, the council decided, and we donated a substantial amount of money to them, and they were overwhelmed. So anything that we can do to help our fellow man, we do.
Yeah. And this is something that I think many understand. Not only are you worthy and deserving recipients of, the accolades, but you are still continuing as seafarers.
Well, the thing about
invaluable
what
contributions.
people don't understand too is that government would not offer these gratuities and ex gratia payments and cynical if they didn't think that we were worthy of them.
Well,
but one of the criteria is that you have to be a paying member, a paid up member of the Seafarers Association.
All right. Let's take this call, Mr. Dennison.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to everybody. Mr. Dennison, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Scott. How are you?
Yes, sir. Oh, just here. Just said I would call in and
yes, sir.
Give my public thanks to you on the great job you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And would like to mention about Women's Seafarers Day that was held on May the 18th gone. A second year that they had this organized from 2021 that was established for the first time in history. They chosen a day for Women's Seafarers Day. And today, according to reports, there are 24,000 women seafarers throughout the world. That's a lot. You wouldn't think there would be that many. But
anyway. Raymond, they have an association here that is headed by a lawyer from one of the bigger companies, and it's to do with all these seafaring women. And I went to one of their functions about a year or two ago, and they were actually captains who were women. So it's all around.
Yes, sir, that's right. The Celebrity Equinox, the captain of that big cruise ship, is a woman.
Yeah.
94% of the 24,000 works on cruise ships as captains and mate. I have communicated with several of them, mates on the big cruise ship.
Yeah, we take nothing away from the women. As a matter of fact, when the other governor was here, he invited the council to Mount Gay, I think was the name of the craft that England sent down during 2 years ago. I think it was when they always send one down for the Caribbean during the hurricane season. And the chief mate on that boat, or that ship I should say, was a lady. and it was amazing. She helped us tour the wheelhouse and all that, and I mean I'm used to this big wheel that you steer the ship with. All they have is a little thing like the size of your hand, so it's all different nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly we haven't forgot the women. The problem is that, and we're working on that now. The First Wives Club is what I refer to it as, and government is considering it, and that's why we're meeting with the MPs. There are a lot of first wives, I call them, because for different reasons people get divorced and all that. But during the formative times, they were the backbone, and when the men became officers, they were able to take them on the ship with them. And most of those people have passed on. Fortunately, we have a few of them who are still here, and we go aboard to assist those people, those women, because they were the stalwarts behind the men, but they took care of the children. They banked the money when the husband sent it back, and etc. So government is looking after that, because you have these women who are much younger than the men. They come and they get married, and by the time you turn around, the man has passed on, and the woman gets all the benefits, not the first wives. So we're working on that also.
Yes, sir, understood. And whenever I communicate in with the ships and a lady officer answers me, I said, congratulations on your position as being in command of one of the largest tankers or container ships in the world. So I always give them a recommendation, and thanks for appreciation for their position. In fact, there's a 35-year-old Filipino woman that I talks with on every trip that she passes here on one of the biggest gas tankers in the world. She's the second mate, trading from Texas to Brazil, and she's the one that gives me all the information.
Raymond, the Maritime Association of the World, they have a university in Italy that you can actually go there and study navigation and all of the pros and cons of being a seafarer.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Yeah, I know about that. And a few days ago, I think it was yesterday, I mentioned about the shortage of seafarers worldwide. 16,500 mates, first mate, second mate, chief mate, third mate, and 26,000 crew members shortage. And this is as a result of so many ships being built all around the world. And the Ukrainians and Russians, which is a popular nationality to be on ships, have returned home to fight in the war and things like that.
That's unfortunate, but as the population dwindles, so does the eligibility for seafarers. But a lot of people in this world and in Grand Cayman, they don't know that 90% of everything that is bought or sold in Cayman comes via a ship. There are a few things come by plane and all that, but 90% of the commerce in the world is by ships. You have container ships that carry 5,000 containers.
5,000, now it's 24,364, the biggest container ships in the world.
Well, see, that one is a little bit bigger than my imagination. But I thank you for calling in, Raymond, and keep up the good works. I haven't spoken to you recently, but did you ever send that email to me?
No, sir.
Please do in the near future so we can work on that, okay?
Yes, okay, fine, understood. And this Seafarers, International Seafarers Day, I will have ships coming by to celebrate that. As the Women's Seafarers Day on the May 18th, I had a freighter pass by a half mile off celebrating Women's Seafarers Day. That was on May the 18th, yes.
That's very good. Okay. Thank you so much for calling, my friend, and you take care. Make sure you send that email.
Yes, sir, will do. All the best.
All right.
All the best. Thanks,
care.
Mr. Raymond.
Okay.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Mr. Denson, as Mr. Raymond was on, I had a quick exchange with one of our listeners who was asking about seafarers and their BRAC. Is it still the same association? If so, is it different?
No, it's not. When I was there for last year's See
Sunday,
mm-hmm. I told them that we would try to work on it. But it's a little difficult in the sense that when the association, incidental as Cayman Brackers go, they did everything before Grand Cayman. In 1992 was when they were formed.
Mm-hmm.
But their association is called Veterans and Seamen's Association. And down here in Grand Cayman, the seafarers are different from the veterans. So we have a little stumbling block there. But we're working on it.
Okay. We do have a couple of calls, but a quick short break. When we come back, we'll take those calls and continue discussion.
Okay.
Please join us after.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Prevention is key. Is your heart at risk? During the month of June, Baptist Health International is offering special pricing for cardiac CT scan for calcium scoring for just 99 CI to patients at high risk for heart disease, the leading cause of deaths worldwide. You are a candidate if you are 40 to 65 years old and have any of the following risk factors: obesity, current or recent smoker, family history of heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or diabetes. To request an appointment or for more information, call 749-3304 or visit baptisthealth.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to the excellent company, Mr. Denison Tibbetts. Sir, we do have a couple of calls. Let's go to each one. Welcome. Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
Not too bad, sir. And yourself?
Very well, sir. And thanks for sharing with us. Sir.
I'm calling to speak to Mr. Tibbetts regarding some comments you made earlier. I had to call him because I couldn't believe what he was saying, about someone from West Bay accusing him of stealing from the seafarers.
I recognize the caller now, but I guarantee you that is correct. And it was brought to my attention by another member because a deceased member mentioned it to him before he died. But, it's
I mean, come on, That is...
It's childish.
That is very distasteful, to accuse you as the president that has did more and has put more and has spent more time than any other president in the time that the seafarers has been around. And somebody got accused you for doing something like that. I mean, I don't know how to describe them, I'll tell you the truth.
Well, they're very small-minded, and I take it with a grain of salt in a sense. And I wasn't going to talk about it, but let me tell you something, Peter. I want the West Bay people to come back to meetings, and I've noticed quite a few of them don't come to meetings, and it's because of this reason. That particular person is spreading the propaganda, in West Bay, and people are believing him. But anyway,
no disrespect to anybody, but if someone is accusing you for something like that, and other people are so narrow-minded and listen to that person and don't prove it to themselves, then you know what? They need to live in America and become a Democrat. And
anyway,
because they are too easy to be led, and they believe anything. So I say go to the United States and just become a Democrat and live happily ever after under the regime that they got there now. They'll be right at home. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you for calling, Peter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I think, well, you share as you wish, but let's take this other caller.
Okay.
Nope, that one's not there, but please do share.
No, well, like I told you earlier, I didn't really want to talk about it, but it's been on my mind, and that's why I mention it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call no names, but the people know who I'm talking about. And like Peter said, if the people that believe that,
mm-hmm.
what he's the propaganda that he's spreading, and people members believe that, then they're just as bad as him, you know. I have had women too from West Bay come to me and say, "We want you president for life." Now, I mean, if I had the temperament that I would give up easily, I would say, "Man, I don't want to be president no more," you know. But I realize the gravity of my position, and I think that with God's help, even though I'm an old man now, I still get around and I do what, like Peter said, other presidents haven't done, but I get a real satisfaction out of it, you know.
Mm. As you share, you know, I think many times we can look to people and, you know, draw inspiration, get an example, maybe learn from not only their successes but perhaps their shortcomings. Appreciate their endeavors, but sometimes, you know, maybe their misplaced sort of expectations. But speak to us as a society where, whether we're going to be looking at our own general election in 2 years, whether we have the unfolding geopolitical landscape with the U.S. elections coming up and what's transpiring there. Right. We go to Brazil, we see a similar thing that their former president is facing as well.
Yeah, it's all. Today, as a matter of fact, while I was in the office there, we were listening, and I know I saw it. People are so all over the world. People do falseness all the time, you know. Because I read last night that submarine that went down here, that they brought it back up, and four of the guys were in hospital, and one of them was in serious condition. Now today, I hear differently, and you know, it amazes me. I remember some time ago we saw where they had this snake in a bowl in a
around here in a plant thing or something.
Yeah, and that was false. I mean, why would people do something like that?
It's interesting to say that, though. Is it that let's look at possible scenarios. It's true, it's false. It's true but denied, it's false but celebrated, right? And is it, as Ronald Reagan, what I think, the excellent U.S. former president used to say, trust but verify. Is it that we as people no longer have not just the temerity, but the integrity? We no longer have the honor and the ethos and the ethics to ensure that the truth prevails, right? As a friend reminded me earlier, and I heard a good gentleman just repeat it. He says, truth may hurt, but a lie will be forever.
That's right.
So is that the consequence?
I on another organization that I'm a member of.
Yes, sir.
One of the mottos is pray for those people who do you harm. And I pray every night, every morning, and every night I pray. And I ask God to help me love that person that is spreading all these rumors, you know. And one of these days, God will change everything, and it'll be safe in both of us hearts. But for the time being, it's hurting the association. It's causing members down there not to come to meetings. And if you don't come to meetings, then you won't know what's going on. You know, that's part of the reason why I'm here this evening, to try and educate and tell people what's happening.
One of our listeners sent and asked us if we would read, and especially to you, says the society that separates its scholars from its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting by fools. I think you're familiar with this.
Well, you know,
it is.
I was listen.
Yes,
Dwayne, I have been like yourself. I was fortunate. Me and my siblings, we had good parents, and they instilled in us to love your neighbor as yourself, and to pray for people. And the old saying that's in the Bible, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the motto that I. And I try not to let my ego get the better of me and get in the way. But sometimes it does, and you know, I have to apologize for that.
Well, it's kind of, as I read this next message from one of our listeners, sort of what you were speaking to earlier, the society that is willing to accept certain things that may go against its ethos, may strike a nerve, you know, with sort of the ancestral traditions and the like, is a society that is either going to be conquered or somehow so changed that it does no longer recognize itself. This listener questions, you know, says, when will the government do something about those people riding on the road with the only thing, you know, of their face that you can see is their eyes most time, you know, not even that. So we've seen an increasing practice where in cars, on the backs of trucks, walking the street, it's not protection from the sun. It's almost, as some would say, not even as a religious practice or preference.
Not only that, but you know, I'm appalled because I live in North, but I've been there 50 years, and driving from there in the morning to Prospect, where the office is, and in the evening driving back. Not so much in the evening so much, but in the mornings, I'm appalled at the quality of driving. My goodness, everybody's in a hurry to get where?
I'm in a hurry to...
You're in a hurry to die. That's the only thing I can say. But, you know,
but it's
part of our culture now. And
is it now?
Every time you turn around, there's a fender bender. There's no need for that.
Well, I think, you know, Burke said it best, you know, evil prevails, you know, when good men do nothing. The Latin, I won't try to repeat, but talks about, you know, in absence, you know, of light, you know, darkness prevails, right? So it is something that we need to consider.
Well, you know, the government, as far as the government goes, most people know that I ran for election a couple of times ago, but I wasn't successful. But I took it like a man. I mean, I didn't say that I should have won because of skullduggery or something. No. But the important thing is today, every time a government goes in, whether they're good or bad, everybody thinks that they're bad. Why is that?
Well, you know, we don't see, I think, sometimes the importance of our own impact and the importance of our contributions. But they say you can lie by omission as well as by commission.
Yeah, you know, and I sometimes wonder when I hear about the commission that is now in session about changing the amount of MLAs in the House and all that because of the population surge and all that. I'm appalled that nobody goes to these meetings, but yet still they get on the radio when the commissioner is there and say, "Boy, I'm not coming to listen to any talking foolishness." I mean, how can you affect change if you don't listen and learn?
And even if it is, as some would say, foolishness that's being spouted, if you're not present to hear it firsthand, how can you responsibly?
You know, some weeks ago, when they were planning, NRA were planning to change no left turn, or rather no right turn.
No right turn, yeah.
By the Hurley's roundabout. And they had it at the Seafarers Hall, and I was there, and they were standing room only.
Mm-hmm.
And 90% of the people who were there, they might be Caymanians now, but they were expatriate Caymanians. I mean, like English people, Jamaicans, Indians, and they voiced their. There was a lady there who said she timed it. It would take her 15 minutes if she took the other way, whereas if she just went around the roundabout, it would only be 5 minutes to town. The other way would take her 15 minutes to get in town. I mean, how many Caymanians would do that? You know, and it's appalling because this is our country, and unless we think of it that way, it'll never be any better.
Well, I'm prayerful, Mr. Denston, that you, as well as others like yourselves, if and when there is a Caymanian, publicly, hopefully politically, would expound, such policies and maybe, willing to stand on certain principles, that they'll be not only commended, but they'll be,
Well, I hope that the political change, that the political welfare of the country will change in a sense where people who have, well, I shouldn't say good sense, because all of us have good sense. All of us were blessed by the good Lord with 5 senses. But people who appreciate and do the right thing behind the powers that be. I mean, we cannot have pure Indians and no chiefs, right? And that is sometimes I wonder, what do people expect? That everybody wants to be the leader, but nobody wants.
The captain needs a good crew, huh?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, appreciate it. Any closing or further thoughts, Mr. Denston?
Well, you have, every time I come here, you trap me into trying to explain the things that I should not be delving into.
No. I got to take you up on that one. I invite you, sir, to share as you wish, and I'm honored that you do.
Well, I hope that my few remarks this evening has touched someone, and especially seafarers and their spouses and the adult children of seafarers, and the populace on a whole, and that life can be so much better in the Cayman Islands.
Indeed.
Because whether they think that we live in a paradise or not, we do. If you check all the other countries in the world, there's nothing comparable to what we have here. So thank you so much for having me here, and it's always a pleasure.
It is indeed an honor, sir. I genuinely appreciate you reaching out and offering yourself when you're available. To your point, about the paradise, I reminded of the tree. It won't bear fruit next season if we take care of it now. And maybe,
sure.
Yeah, maybe it is time that we find that courage that we are imbued with. Maybe it is time that not only do we call a spade and hold those accountable, but that we are prepared individually and collectively to stand in the gap and to be mindful that yes, stopping no who to frighten, but any boo, could send you scurrying. Maybe it is time to show the mettle of the man by standing shoulder to shoulder. Blessings to you, Mr. Denston.
Thanks, my brother. You take care.
All right, thank you, my brother. And to our listeners, please join me. Come tomorrow morning for the record, and come back talk today after our midday news. We're going to have our monthly mental health matters. Now, Dr. Borden is back and wearing multiple hats. A discussion tomorrow promises to ensure that we have that continued focus on the importance of our mental health as we have our monthly mental health matters. Hey, this time on a Friday. We'll tell you something else tomorrow they're going to be excited about, but wait until tomorrow. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama.